Welcome to Love Where You Live, where we have conversations about how awesome it is to live in Boulder County and the surrounding area. Today, I'm sitting with a good friend of mine named Triny Willerton. She's sitting here. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can see her lovely face here next to me. A wonderful individual who originally came from Mexico City. And Triny, you can always weigh in and correct me. Lived in Mexico City. I know her then having moved to Boulder from Houston, Texas, or the Houston area. But I did just find out she lived in Paris. So Triny, first off, thank you so much for being here. It's great to have you.
Oh, thank you so much, Michael. This is a great opportunity, and I sense that we're going to have a lot of fun.
I hope so. I think we will too. I sense that. And so folks that don't know Triny, a lot of you guys have seen her. A lot of people in our sphere have seen her name, have heard her story. But Triny's, first and foremost to me, she's a mother of five. And this is how I met her. Mother of five, wife to Nigel, a wonderful individual, also Boulder resident. And so she's an endurance athlete, has been her for a long time. I won't say whole life, we'll find out. Endurance athlete, Ironman athlete, Hawaii Ironman finisher. But when I first met her, she came up and she said, hey, I'm new to Boulder. I was coaching swimming, and she said, I'd like to swim with a nice group. I had a great group down in Houston. And she goes, I've got 5 kids. I've got a lot going on. Some of the kids were grown at the time. This was 8 years ago. But I was like, oh my gosh, how are you this awesome, like great energy, mother, family person, working and training for Ironman? So that was my first intro to Triny on the pool deck. Do you remember that?
Absolutely. You're so sweet. And yeah, no, I was desperately looking for a group because I was so used to my community in Houston. And honestly, coming here, I met a lot of amazing people, but they were all basically half my age or pros. And they're all really welcoming and really sweet, but I really had a hard time finding my people. I think like my age group doesn't live in Boulder in the main. I think a lot of people must live in Thornton. I mean, eventually I met more people and I corroborated that most people do not live here. So I'm like, my 5 best friends, like my bridesmaids, were all in my age group. It was just a really, really tight-knit group of people. So I was like yearning to connect and find people. And I loved your group. And then you were no longer
And then I went and changed it up.
Yes, and so now I don't have a group anymore. I don't even have a pool at the time. So.
Nobody does. We're all poolless here in Boulder. But okay, so let's go back because I want to revisit what you just said, the community and coming here and where you are. But before we get to that, because you just threw me for a loop, we said Paris, but talk to me about, you grew up in Mexico City. That's one of the biggest cities in the world. It's got to be kind of a unique, cool, interesting place to grow up. What was it like for you growing up in Mexico City?
It was amazing. I mean, in the culture, that's one of the things that I kind of miss that my kids are not having access to, and I wish that they would. It's a feeling. It's living with people that have this enormous heart. And I'm not saying that we don't have it here, but it's just, you walk down the road and the cobble streets and the food, and there's food in every corner. And it's just like a totally different, it's kind of magical to me. It's also the extremes, right? Because there's extreme poverty, and it's not all nice and happy. And unfortunately, there's a lot of injustice. But there's a lot of injustice here as well. But there is an aspect of it, the culture, and like I said, the food, having access to meeting all sorts of different people. I mean, it was really, I grew up in a school where we spoke English and Spanish simultaneously. So half of my subjects were in Spanish and half of them were in English.
Okay.
I moved to the States when I was 13.
Okay.
My parents got divorced, and my mom was from Tucson. So when they got divorced, she thought it was like a good transition just to go back to the United States. And so that's what we did. And I lived there until I was 18. Then I moved, and I lived in Paris for a year.
Wow.
And then I went back to Mexico City as soon as I could.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I didn't know that. So up to 13 in Mexico City, just like, if you can give us a snapshot, were you active, only school? I mean, it's a big city. Was it like, did you play tennis? I mean, what was any sports, any activities?
I love to run, but nobody coached me to run.
Okay.
So I did piano, I did ballet. I mean, those were like my activities after school. Sport-wise, I did taekwondo.
Okay. Okay.
I did Spanish
probably whip
dancing.
me. Oh, nice.
Yeah, I did all sorts of after school, extracurricular activities. But then I moved over here and yeah, it was an absolute culture shock. I mean, I
bet.
had grown up in this tiny Montessori school. We were 13 in my generation. And I went to a public school in Houston where there were like 300 in my generation.
Oh
But
my gosh.
I think 1,000 kids in the whole school.
Yeah, big school.
I rode the bus, and for whatever reason, we didn't have a school in our neighborhood. So there were like 4 or 5 neighborhoods that got together and went to, I don't know if
Tell me
you
the school.
remember, it was called Paul Revere Middle School.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was like out in Derry, Ashford, and I lived over by the Galleria. So it was a commute.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
It was very strange. And yeah, I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be back in Mexico. So it was kind of hard. And yeah, then I finished high school. I started really, really young. I finished when I was 16.
Is that right? Wow, that is early. Yeah.
I took my last 2 years together. I was not a fan of school back
You
then.
ready? Yeah, ready to get out of there.
And and then I started college when I was 16. So that was not a good idea
Okay. Where was that?
at U of H.
At U of H. And so you're a college student at 16. Without, I mean, that's grown up fast, right? I mean, you're kind of, and so were you academically inclined? That's your jam, or no? You just were moving. Okay.
Yeah, no. And it was the biggest mistake I think I've ever made. I mean, just to corroborate that, I am 52 now and I'm back in school. I decided willingly to go back to school and finish my degree because it's been something that has been pending in my life. And so I have this really cool opportunity to do that now here at CU.
That is cool.
But back then I just wanted, I wanted to eat life. I mean, I was like ready to go, like you said.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was just so unprepared. I was so immature and I was just not where I should
That's
have been.
tough. That's
I should have
tough.
been in
Yeah.
high school doing my junior year and just enjoying high school. But,
Right.
but at the same time, I'm here with you now. And that's part of how I came here and how everything came together.
So, and that's fascinating, and I love that you are here now. No, it is. I didn't know this, and this is why I love this so much. These conversations. So, do you want to tell us about Paris, or are we just back to Mexico City?
Oh, Paris. Yeah. So I went to Paris because my sisters had the opportunity to go and study abroad.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was a good idea and to take kind of like a leap year.
Okay.
But ultimately, my passion had always been music. And that's what I always wanted to do. Since I was very little, I was able to like play by ear, and I was just thought that was my path. And so that's why I finished high school so quickly, because I wanted to go back to Mexico City and explore some opportunities I had there.
Okay.
And my mom was like, no, I want you to start college.
Yeah.
And here, you're going to go to U of H kind of thing.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, okay. But so a year later, I did get the opportunity to go back to Mexico City. I started studying acting and theater and
Nice.
at a school there. And then I eventually enrolled in a music school. I was studying music composition in Mexico City.
Okay. Okay.
And and then I got invited to join this band, and the band did really well. And within like a year, we had an offer from a transnational label. And so we went and recorded the album, and therefore I could not finish my degree.
What-
And so
okay, I imagine this is not true, but I could totally see you being the drummer. But really, you're the pianist. What are you, the guitarist, singer? Tell me. I made 4 guesses, by the way.
And you didn't really get any of, well, you did
Zero.
pianist. No, yeah. So
Okay.
I was the keyboard player, and I played all the pianos. We had 2 keyboard. We were all women. And and I played the bass and I played the keyboards. And,
So cool.
and I did backup. So it was really fun. And yeah, that was.
So you get this deal, international. Is that what brings you back to the U.S. or
No, this was in Mexico City.
Yeah, so-
I'm happily studying in school. One of my really good friends says, I'm putting together this band with my sister. It's going to be all women, You'll just play gigs on the weekends.
Okay.
Because the first thing I told him, I'm like, I would love to, but I'm really serious about my school. I want to finish.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, don't worry. This is just going to be like for the weekends.
For sure. No.
Within like less than a year, I promise. It was just such a fast turnover, and he had all this experience because he was in a band, and he had already like we had the most amazing contract just from the get-go because he was able to negotiate with a really good lawyer. And yeah, so we were like in a really privileged place. And
that is cool. This goes into the category of I had no idea. I love it. Tell me more.
Then we went and recorded in New York City, and we stayed there for about 4 months to record the album.
Okay.
We promoted the album, and I stayed with them for about 2 years.
Okay.
Then the whole situation, internal situation, became a little problematic, and I was just like, this is not fun anymore. This is getting really hard to travel with people that are not getting along. So I left the band, and I started managing a band.
Okay.
And this band was part of the same transnational. We were signed, it used to be called Polygram.
Okay.
And then it got bought out by Universal Music.
Wow.
So this band.
Okay.
So I managed this band for about 4 or 5 years.
Is that right?
Yeah.
This is, okay. Keep telling. So okay. All right. This is the past I didn't know. So share more.
And that's where I met my ex-husband. And
okay.
He was the bass player of this band.
Gotcha.
And then eventually they had inner conflicts, and lead singers tend to have issues. And so then we decided at that point, we were married already, and I was pregnant with our first baby.
Yeah.
And so we were like, you know what, let's just change. It was hard for him. Unlike my band, which was kind of like an impromptu kind of thing, they had been playing since they were little kids and were friends. And so for him, it was really difficult. So we moved to Houston. My mom was in Houston.
Gotcha.
And suddenly all the things that were not appealing to me when I was growing up were really appealing as a mom.
Right? I get that. I get
teacher
that.
Mom.
Right.
And so, so we lived in Houston there for a while, and all my kids were born in Houston.
Oh man. Okay. So this is great. This is so good. We're going to do a follow-up conversation, you and I want to bring us to the current now. And so I'll say this, like I introed you as a endurance athlete for many years, Ironman Hawaii finisher. Right. I mean, let's say that's hard. It's not easy. That's just training for it is difficult. We know this. A lot of our audience has, kind of experience with or understands Ironman. So when I met you, let's say you were pretty new, you were brand new to Boulder.
Yeah.
So how did you get from Houston to Boulder first off? Why and how?
Because Nigel and I got married in 2013.
Gotcha.
And at that point, he had worked really hard and gotten to a point where he was able to basically work from home from even before when people could work from home.
Yes.
And so we had explored a couple of places, and he wanted to come to Boulder. I thought Boulder was a great idea because we wanted to have our kids have the opportunity to just ride their bikes to school, to have that type of quality of life, right, that we were not experiencing in Houston. Houston was such a ginormous place and completely car-centric, and just somewhere that, I grew up walking to a lot of places. Nigel grew up on his bike. And we just basically wanted to have that opportunity for our kids. And of course, Nigel, and anybody that knows that Nigel is on his bike 24/7. And he has all types of bikes.
Yes.
He'll be on his bike no matter what. When I first met him, and it used to rain a lot in Houston, and so a lot of people would not ride.
Right.
And he literally told me, if we stopped doing things in England because it rained, we would do nothing. So we're riding. And I'm like, oh, okay.
It's raining. Yeah, totally. Yes.
As long as it's not thundering and lightning, it's fine.
Right. Okay. So so you guys hone in on Boulder. It's married in 2013. You moved here in 2016. A couple years later. What were your first impressions of being, you'd come to check it out. You're here a resident now. First impressions, you're in Boulder. What was that like?
Well, I mean, we were very lucky to know this one couple that lived literally down the street. And my friend, Jen, she literally came up to me and she said, "Hello, you're my new best friend." And
Oh
that
my
was
gosh, I love that.
basically, yeah, my
That's the intro.
introduction to Boulder. She was the sweetest. I mean, when we were moving, she came over and dropped off a bag with Snarf sandwiches. It's like, these are going to be your lifesavers.
That's great. Wow.
Yeah. And there's a plug for Snarfs.
There you go, Snarfs on Arapaho. Well, they're everywhere now. There's a few of them, but
Yeah, but they're amazing if you haven't tried them.
Yeah.
So Jen dropped off a whole bunch of Snarf sandwiches for us, and it was really cool. I mean, so I had come ahead of time and kind of visited the different schools that we were going to be at. And I love that our vending machines had like the most nutritious things I had ever seen in a vending machine.
Right.
And I loved how wholesome the whole community was. I really felt very welcomed. My kids felt welcomed.
Amazing.
And we were able to make really good matches. That's another thing that I loved about as far as like the Boulder Valley School District. So you're able to connect to a school that you feel they have open enrollment, so you can choose whatever school feels better for your child, right? So for example, my oldest went to Southern Hills.
Yep.
My middle child didn't really feel that he connected at Southern Hills, and he asked me to enroll him in Manhattan, and so he went to Manhattan.
Right.
And that was where he really found his people. And
it is really, I think what you just said is something that a lot of folks that move here don't know. They're saying, hey, I'm moving. How can I get to my school district? Well, get into BVSD, Boulder Valley School, and then you can pick.
Yeah.
It's not always a guarantee. Some, you might not be able to get automatically into, but generally, what a perk.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely wonderful. I mean, there's right now growing up, my child that was at Manhattan is currently at New Vista, which is a great school. It has program-based learning, which is also,
love that.
where some kids will really thrive, including mine. And then I have another kid that's at Fairview, which is very rigid and more academically vigorous or
driven. Yeah, that's right. Right. Okay.
And he's thriving there too. So the schools are great here.
And so you're here. You guys Nigel's on his bike every day. You're training for Ironman. You guys feel like you've got Jen. You're welcome. Snarfs bring you in. Did you kind of roll right into rhythm, feeling like this was home?
Yeah. It was really easy to just kind of adapt. I found you, so I had a swim group.
Yep.
It was easy. I mean, the only thing that, like I said, it was kind of bizarre that I didn't find women my age that were doing triathlon. It was just because that's what I was used to. Right. So suddenly Jen wasn't athletic. So it was kind of like, we went on walks and we did other things that we loved to do together. But I was just so used to having, the people that I really was close to be triathletes.
Right.
So,
it was your thing. It was your thing. Okay. Amazing. Yes. And that's kind of a head scratcher we'll have to revisit, is where were all those women in that time? I'm thinking back to 2016. So let's fast forward a couple. So you're here, 2016, 2017, and then we're going to get to the part where you're an Ironman athlete. You're training for these, and you're getting ready for Kona.
Well, that was
tell me, you're training for Ironman Texas. What are you training for?
No, so I went from having a goal of doing an Ironman, like a bucket list type of thing, to meeting Nigel, and Nigel and his friends were doing 2 or 3 per year.
Right.
I became one of those people, one of those, the Ironman, three Ironman per year people.
Yes.
And I wasn't being smart about how I was selecting the Ironmans. I was just going with the flow. I mean, there's a new one, let's go do it. Yes, let's go do it. I did Tahoe the first year. Yeah. I did a lot of things that I was not really training well for.
Gotcha.
So when I got here, it all seemed to kind of come together. For Nigel, the altitude didn't really make a difference. Not good, not bad. For me, it was huge. I mean, I really benefited from altitude training, and my nutrition came together. That was essential. I was always struggling with a couple of extra pounds, with water retention and all these things. But when I got here, it all kind of, it just, everything made sense. And for the first time in 2017, I told Nigel, I'm like, I think I'm ready to qualify for Kona. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
And it was so scary to say it out loud. And it was just but I said, okay, I'm going to try. And for the first year ever, I started podiuming at Ironman events.
Good for you.
And I go to Cozumel, I had my best time. You were there.
Yes.
And I was like, no. My
Just
kids
missed.
went. Yeah. I came in fourth. Oh, fourth. And fourth in Mexico, they don't podium. So I didn't even get to get on podium. I missed the slot. But I did beat Nigel. And so that is eternal.
Redemption.
Yes.
You always have that victory. You own him in that regard.
And he wasn't racing that day, but his record is 11:01 and mine's 10:45.
Still?
Yes.
Oh, you're still faster than him then. Okay, so we'll count that. That goes down. I like that.
Forever and ever. So then we come back from Cozumel and I'm just like, I cannot believe I missed this.
Yeah.
But I felt really strong. And I remember calling, do you remember Kelly Pua?
It rings a bell, for sure.
Kelly was one of the strongest athletes I have ever met. No matter where she was, no matter what she did, she was like always podiuming, like she was winning our age group and by a lot. And so we both found ourselves in Cozumel. She came in third. She missed the slot as well. And because the first two women got it. And our delta that time, I think, was like 40 minutes. She did like a 10:02.
Oh, my word. Yeah. Smoking.
And so when I got back, I called her. I'm like, Kelly, look, this is our plan. You're gonna register for Boulder, and people are gonna see your name, and they're gonna say, oh, well, Kelly's there. I'm not gonna register because Kelly's there, or they're gonna know that you're there. So anyway, so we had a strategy, and she was laughing. She was like, Triny, you're so funny. I'm like, no, really, seriously, you're gonna do this, and we're gonna qualify, and da da da. So anyway, so I am training as hard as I can. At the same time, there was this announcement from the Ironman Foundation, from Women for Tri.
Yes.
Just letting people know that there was this opening for a slot for the inspirational woman for that year. And I remember a friend of mine calling me because I had just had this discussion about how disappointed I was because I missed my slot in Cozumel.
Yes.
And she said, you know what, Triny, I just saw this thing. It's perfect for you. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? The Women for Tri thing? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not an inspirational person. I mean, I'm just a person. And she said, no, you've been working so hard because I'm part of the CORE team, and CORE has always had this premise of inspiring women to get involved in sport. And it's been really, it's like essential. It's one of the pillars of and if you see someone in transition, you go and kind of make them feel better.
It's great. Yeah, it's great.
So anyway, long story short, she interviews me for this application, and she puts it all together. She worked really hard on it, and I'm out there training my butt off every single opportunity that I have. As soon as my kids leave, I'm out there either running or biking or swimming.
Understood.
And on May 8th of 2018, I set out to the Ironman bike course. And I remember Nigel was going to come with me, but he had just done a century the day before or something crazy like that. And he was watching the Giro, and he was like, I'll just meet you. Why don't you start off and I'll meet you like halfway through. And so we were going to meet at Tom Watson Park. Tom Watson Park is this amazing place over by like what we like to call like the flatlands, because
sure.
It's like where people go and ride and it's flat, and it's like a meeting point, and you do a lot of bricks there. It's a
good spot, yeah.
Convenient place.
Right.
So we were going to meet there. And I remember when I left my house, I, got all my gear on. I had my little flashing light on my jersey. I had every light possible. I was always like an extremely cautious rider. So,
sure.
And I was by myself, which was really unusual. But anyway, so I went on to Nelson Drive. And I remember when I got to Nelson, I just thought, wow, I made it. There was a lot of construction. There was a lot of things going on. And my train of thought was that I was going to text Nigel as soon as I crossed Nelson, which of course I never made it. I was on Nelson. I passed 63rd. I looked back. I started signaling. Back then, the speed limit was 50 miles an hour. There were no signage like advising anybody of anything. And it was just a dangerous place, which I didn't know was dangerous, which is really interesting.
Sure.
I always felt safe. I had ridden that a gazillion times. And so I'm in the middle of the road. I'm signaling. I'm making my turn. And the next thing I see is the grill of an F-150 truck. And I was thrown in the air. I never lost consciousness. I just remember thinking of my kids. My littlest one was 9. at the time.
Right.
And just my monologue was like, I am just like the stupidest person on the earth. What am I doing out here? Why am I here?
And that's,
I should be on my trainer. I should not be on this road. And anyway, so
and let's do this, because I've written down some notes. We're talking 6 broken ribs, punctured lung, fractured scapula, fractured pelvis. I mean, this isn't like you got knocked down and you're thinking about stuff. You got run over. I mean, you got thrown.
Yeah.
So this is a big, big deal. You are lying there gravely, I mean, hurt.
Yeah.
You don't know if you're getting up, right? I don't want to put thoughts in your mind, but this is horrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you say it now, I think it's like, well, that sort of sounds matter of fact. Then what? I mean, you're there, you're broken.
No, absolutely. And I think I've told this story so many times that it kind of like becomes mechanical, but yeah, it was absolutely horrific. When I was flying, I didn't know if I was going to live, if I was dead, if I was able to walk.
No idea.
I had no idea. I didn't even know where I was in relation to the other cars. And I didn't know if I was going to get run over.
Right.
I mean, it was absolutely terrifying. Very, very quickly, a man came to me and he said that he was a nurse.
Okay.
And so I was extremely lucky. He said, don't worry, I'm with you.
Got you. Good.
Focus on me. He called my husband. And soon after that, the ambulance came and took me away.
Okay.
So I didn't get a chance to talk to the police.
Okay.
I was taken to BCH. The crew and the ambulance was amazing.
Okay,
I still
good.
remember the woman was pregnant and she had a Kona baby. She had her baby around October.
Oh, right.
So it was really sweet. Yeah. But anyway, so they took me to the hospital, and yes, like you said, I had over a dozen fractures. I had a triple pelvic fracture, which was the most painful thing out of everything that I had. But yes, my whole entire left part of my left side was broken.
And so if I could just ask this, because like I want to kind of, and I don't want to rush your story, but what weaves this together well is I described you as a family person when I met you, but I feel like in addition to family, you've mentioned it over and over all of these times, community is huge to you. Yeah. So you're driven, you're dedicated, family's huge, community's huge. You've now got this opportunity to just be down and out, see you later. Or what I've seen you do, which is, hey, I know the punchline. You raced Kona. You got in. I want you to tell this. And then now what you're doing, you rose up and you said, I need to fight against this stuff happening. This is everyone's worst nightmare who gets on a bike.
Yeah.
And it's happened to you. So bring me now to a little bit of, how are you doing Kona 5 months after this crash? How'd that happen? Was that easy?
No.
I know that wasn't easy.
No. I had incredible support and help. I mean, that's where, I had been chasing Eni Jones because I'm not a swimmer. I just, I would survive the swim and get on my bike and do as much as I could to make sure that the runners didn't catch me.
Okay.
That was my plan.
Yes.
And most of the time they did, but at the end, I was getting better at it. But anyway, so Eni reaches out to me. Okay, so let's go back. So I'm in my hospital bed, and my friend who did the application, her name was Dana, she calls up to just check in on me. And what I've been told, because I was heavily drugged, was that I asked her to please submit the application. And all I remember was thinking how hard she had worked.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah, please just submit it. So Dana goes ahead, submits the application. And this is coming from a person that cannot even move from outside. Right. I couldn't go to the bathroom.
Right.
So she does. And, some time goes by. I don't hear anything. And I just forget about the whole thing. But honestly, my whole attitude, when I realized that I was going to be able to walk, when I realized that I was going to be able to live and watch my kids grow up, my whole entire way of looking at life was of gratitude. And I'm not saying this to be corny. It's true. I celebrated every single thing. So I never felt like the crash took anything away from me. Right. It was more like, oh, and there's another part of the story. So a year before that, a man had gotten killed exactly at that spot on exactly the same day, but 1 year before. And so to me, a lot of the things that I do for him. His name's Charles Crenshaw. Mm-hmm. And it's just been really, I don't know, just understanding that Charles never got the opportunity that I did.
That's right.
So moving forward, everything, I started going to PT, and it was the best days of my week were my PT days.
That's great.
When I got to see Eni offered her help. Eni, for whoever doesn't know, is a mermaid.
She is. She's a Boulder. No longer. She's a Crested Butte, a wonderful Boulder resident for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Touched a lot of people. Wonderful. Yep.
And she would get she would get in the pool with me. She had me swimming with rocks. I mean,
Amazing.
and it was really challenging because I had not only like the front of my body broken, but my back. So I couldn't really use my back. My scapula was, so it was opening all that up. Anyway, so yeah, with a lot of help, with a lot of people, Rachel Joyce came to me. She gave me so many good tips and advice. But anyway, it was an absolute surprise to me. They had been communicating with my husband. And one day I was sitting at breakfast and the phone rang, and it was a phone number from like New Jersey or somewhere that I definitely did not recognize. And my husband was just looking at my phone and looking at my phone, and he's like, "Why are you not answering your phone?"
Like, because it's spam.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, "No, you have to answer that." And anyway, it rang out, and he grabbed my phone, he dialed it, and he said, "Here, you have to talk to them." And it was Maura from the team, Core, and from the Ironman Foundation, and just asking me if I wanted to take the slot for Kona.
Amazing.
And my immediate reaction was yes. I mean,
yes.
I don't know how. And at this point, we had already talked. Well, Nigel had been talking to my doctors because they wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to finish. And yeah, the aura around me was that of, "You are crazy, but we will do everything we can to support you and to get you there." And one thing that I have to really emphasize is that the reason every doctor that was part of my team said I was able to recover the way I did was because of how fit I was. I was the fittest I have ever been.
That's great.
And
that's wonderful. It's important. So the fitness saved your life, and the fitness got you back. Realistically, I mean, it protected you. Oh, that's great. I mean, so my mind's sort of spinning. I want to get here now. Episode number 2, we're going to talk about your Kona experience. But what I want to do is I want to bring you back to Boulder and the community and the involvement that you have and the wonderful stuff you're doing here. So a couple years later, and you tell me when, but a couple years later, you're back, and now you're a driving force. You've created It Could Be Me, which we need to talk about. And why and what is that? How did you just get into that world of supporting our community?
It was immediately. I was really fortunate that at the time when my crash happened, there was a bill on the table, and it was SB 175, which is now the Vulnerable Road User Law. Right. Okay. And so I was called by Bicycle Colorado, asked if I would testify on behalf of this bill. And because this bill happened and the way the process happened, I really was able to see how powerful my voice was, my individual voice. And I decided that I was going to do everything I could to make sure that what happened to me and my family didn't happen anymore, because I was just sick of seeing people getting hurt. And it was just, the more I discovered about how things were set up, the more I discovered how much they needed to change. And so we posted a video in July of 2019. It was basically a video that my daughter helped me edit. I had been reading over the summer a lot of studies about how people were stopping, that people that were not in cars were no longer deemed like human anymore. Especially cyclists.
Right.
So we were like bugs. They were no longer human. And so I wanted to humanize people again. I wanted the person inside of the car to realize that those people out there it could be anybody that they loved, right? And so I asked people, after I shared my video, I had a call to action. I asked people to make little videos and send them to me, but most importantly, to share them with their networks.
There you go.
Because my hope was to get out of our echo chamber. My hope was to reach Uncle Bob, that perhaps had never thought that cyclist could be
his uncle, his brother, his son, his wife, anything, exactly. His kid. Yeah.
And I've just been really lucky. I worked really, really hard, but I've managed to surround myself with people that are just as passionate. And we established a 501c3 almost immediately. I have a board of 13 people, including myself. Most of them are Boulderites, although I do have people from all over the country. And we're all just working in this together. We have a group of over 300 ambassadors that are nationwide working in their communities, just trying to make roads safer. And yeah, I will say that I never turn down an opportunity. And so if I see an opportunity, I am there applying and doing everything I can.
Good for you.
I applied for the Transportation Advisory Board for the city of Boulder. And this will be my second year.
That's so good. So,
Tab.
yep. And so so in a nutshell, it could be me, you're driving road safety. Everyone that uses the road is how I kind of like to hear it, right? Cars, bikes, pedestrians. You want to make them safer for everyone. Is that right?
Yes. So I want to make sure that everybody that uses the road gets there safely. It doesn't matter what mode of transportation you choose to use or you have to use, right? I mean, there's people that commute for a gazillion different reasons.
Sure.
And some people don't have that choice. I want to make sure that the infrastructure is there so people have the opportunity to be safe. So I could talk about it, could be me
For
all
sure.
day long.
I
but
know.
We also offer victim crash support.
Yeah.
We offer media training sessions. That was part of. So at a national level, we've been really involved in what is now the National Roadway Safety Strategy. And we asked for congressional support with other organizations in 2021. And our plea was for the current administration to commit to zero traffic deaths.
There you go. Vision Zero, right?
Yes, Vision
Okay.
Zero through the safe systems approach.
Yes.
And so I must have presented to like 50 Congress members on Zoom. I mean, I know that back and forth now. So in 2022, Secretary Buttigieg presents the National Roadway Safety Strategy, which is
Fantastic.
verbatim what we've been asking for, and $5 billion of additional funding for exclusively for complete streets, which
Good.
is a street that takes into consideration everybody and not just cars.
I mean, folks, if you're looking for a real life example, go down to, I mean, the best thing is like Mohawk and Baseline, and then just go all the way at Baseline up to 30th in particular. That zone, I mean, what Trini's talking about, what she's doing and that work you're putting in, that's what we get now. That's such a different corridor to what it was a year ago.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And, you know, and also, I mean, we live in a place where safety is at the utmost priority for our transportation department. I cannot speak better. I mean, there's nothing that I can say that even comes close to how wonderful this team is. Really, our team, everybody's outside. And that's another thing. I mean, from our local transportation department to our governor, I mean, people in this state, that's what we do. We're outside.
And I'll say this, I've done a few of these podcasts already, not a bunch, maybe 8, 9. You're the first person to show up on a bike. So I want to say yes. And most everyone rides one. So you're here. I want to just quickly jump into some of the fun stuff too, like Trini in Boulder. You ride your bike. You came down here. Tell us what a perfect Boulder day looks like to you. So you just have your druthers. What would you do for a day off, weekend, anything here in Boulder?
Well, I love to go up Chapman.
Okay.
Chapman is like one of my favorite places to ride.
Walking, running, biking. Yeah, biking. Okay.
Yeah, biking. And I know it's not the favorite, but I like to go up Chapman and come down Flagstaff.
It's great.
That's what I love to do.
Folks, write that down. That's a good one.
I also love the Marshall Trail.
Okay.
So I'll go on the bike path all the way South Boulder
Oh, yeah. Okay.
to Marshall Mesa.
Nice.
And that is such a fun trail.
Okay.
I mean, and
So you're doing Boulder Creek all the way and it wraps around, takes you over to kind of Bobo Link and then take the trail.
not even. No,
Not
you
even.
don't even have to do that. You just go straight on Broadway.
Oh,
Like one stop.
straight shot.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So you just go and then you are going to join Marshall.
Marshall Road. Yeah.
You
And then hit the
cross
trail.
Marshall and it's right there.
Wonderful.
There's
That's
two
great.
entrances.
There
I
you go.
love that. I love to run up, and this is a little bit harder, but if you go and run by Chautauqua, which we'll talk about Chautauqua because that's like my favorite place to eat.
Okay. Okay.
When we first moved here, we would go to that park all the time with my kids. They would ride their bikes there. I would meet them.
Wonderful.
And I just would have a coffee and watch them play in the playground.
Amazing. At the dining hall there, and they've got ice cream and coffee. So, folks, you don't know this. Chautauqua, we've heard it from other people. Trails, beauty, but you're talking about food, coffee, whatever, hanging out, picnics. Okay.
Yeah, so the weather's perfect. So, after school, the kids would ride in their bikes and we would meet there. and I would have my coffee and literally watching them. I didn't even have to be at the playground because
Sure.
you can look over the balcony
Yeah.
at the
Perfect.
diner.
Oh, that's so good. I love that. What a tip.
Yeah, so that's a great place, and the food's amazing.
And that's it. Okay. So, and you mentioned this before when you and I were talking before, and you got a couple restaurants that you'd recommend. You've already said Snarf's, Chautauqua Dining Hall. What's the best? Coffee, tacos, donut, whatever you like. I almost said donuts. I think donuts are in my brain. I don't need to. I don't know why.
Because there's donuts here.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm like super lame about going out because I'm working at the house all the time. And but we like a place called Busaba. We like Busaba a lot.
Where's that?
There's one in Louisville, which is not Boulder. And then there's one in Boulder.
County. We're Boulder County. We're Valley. We're the whole area. It's good.
And there's another one that just opened that is in that shopping center by Mohawk and Baseline.
What's it called? Bufaba?
Busaba.
Busaba. Oh, is it, what's the,
Like Thai.
Thai cuisine?
Yeah.
I saw the sign. Okay.
Yeah, so try it. It's really good.
Busaba.
There's another one that is Oaxacan like cuisine. It's amazing. And I'm trying to remember the name. It's literally across the street from the St. Julian.
Oh, you're killing me now. So it's on Mapleton?
Masas. It's called Masas.
Masas. I'm writing this
Masas.
down, folks.
That is so good.
Masas.
And, you know, I don't know if it's still the case, but in the beginning, everybody there was from Mexico.
There you
It
go.
was so much fun.
Well,
Yeah.
right there. See, I mean, you say you don't get out much, but I never heard of either of those two restaurants, and
really?
I'm checking them. Well, Basaba, I think I saw that as I said when I drove by the shopping center. This is awesome. I mean, we could go on, but in the interest of time, we sort of promised everyone 30, 45 minutes max. So I don't want to, I'm trying to keep, Trina, I love talking to you.
Forever.
Yeah, totally. Well, we're talkers. We'll have a follow-up. So you've given us the hot spots. You've given us the perfect day. You've talked a little bit about all this stuff, the fun. You've talked about it could be me. If there's anything that you want to share with listeners, new to Boulder, old to Boulder, what just to highlight something that I left off my list of questions, something you just want to share with us, we'd love to hear it.
Well, I would like for them, if they want to get involved, never to doubt themselves. Like whether it's for road safety or advocating for whatever it is that they're passionate about, to believe that their voice will make a difference, because I see it over and over and over. Right now, we just testified on behalf of another bill, the hands-free bill, and that passed unanimously. And I can tell you that it was because of the stories of the people that were there and how we were able to shed light on, you know, how this will make a difference for everyday people. And
What a beautiful, what a great way to close, a beautiful message, because I do think we often doubt that our voice matters or that we have one. So
yeah.
I do love that. That's great. That's for me, parting words, folks. This is Triny Willerton, and I think it's wonderful. Itcouldbeme.org. Go check it out. Get involved. Look her up. Hit her up on Instagram and on the website. She's doing wonderful stuff. I appreciate you coming. It's been a treat to catch up. We have to catch up again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
Oh, absolutely. You're welcome. Thank you for coming. And I'll say this, folks, this has been another awesome conversation about Boulder and how much we love it here in the Valley. And before the next episode, I would encourage everyone, Trina, you included, to go out there and do something that you love.
Yeah. Thank you.